What's up, friend? Today I present to you the interview to Jumps, one of the top console video players, guild leader, content creator and Pearl Abyss partner. I've heard a lot of people say that Pearl Abyss is developing the game around console, and they themselves said in an interview that they plan to put a lot more focus on it, as Crimson Desert plans to be a console-focused game. Today we take a deep dive into the world of Black Desert, Xbox and PlayStation, see what differences there are between them and PC, and find out if they really do get a preferential treatment from PA, and most importantly, if they run Offin instead of Zarka. Timestamps at the bottom and ways to support the stream, plus kisses at the end. Here's the interview. Can you introduce yourself for the people that don't know you?
Hello everyone, my name is Sebs. I'm a video console sorc. I've been playing video on console since launch, 4 months in, about 4 months late into console launch, and I'm very heavily invested in the PvP scene, and I kind of got into the streaming more so era about 6 to 8 months ago, where I started to take it a bit more serious.
What games did you play before video?
I was a big Elder Scrolls online player.
On console always?
On console, yeah.
Okay.
Like I played like Elder Scrolls Oblivion, like single player, like back in the day when I was like much younger. But my first like open world multiplayer MMO was Elder Scrolls Online. But prior to Elder Scrolls Online, I was a big Call of Duty player. I would do wagers, tournaments, things of that nature. And I was a big Gears of War player as well. So kind of crazy how I shifted over from third-person shooter, first-person shooter over kind of the open world MMO game.
I don't think it's as crazy as you think. I mean, I have a very similar background. I also used to play a lot of Halo 3 back in the days.
Oh, okay. I was a big Halo player too. I can't believe I forgot that. But I can't even, ever since Halo 3, I don't think any of the Halos have been remotely interesting for me to play at a competitive level. I think Halo 3 was like that peak point for me in Halo. Halo 2 and Halo 3 were both really, really good.
Probably the main question that viewers might have is like what are the differences between console video and PC video?
Before, I would say the one thing that, the limitation alone is mouse movement we don't have whatsoever, so our sensitivity is definitely more limited. There's certain abilities on PC, like for example, when you can't flame buster spam on Zerk. There's certain things that you just can do on PC that you cannot do on console. Your ring menu is just off your D-pad, so left D-pad, up D-pad, right D-pad, down D-pad, and then it's left trigger, up, left, right, down. Those are your only choices. So it's total of 8 options. You're able to put it in a ring wheel as well, but nobody's gonna cast, Shadow Eruption from like a ring menu. It's gonna be very, very tedious to do and not effective in PvP. So there's the ring menu. There's certain abilities that you're not able to do, and frames. I think the one of the biggest separations between PC and console that I've been trying to preach to the developers and DMs is that our optimization is completely trash compared to you guys. I mean, I remember you coming into my stream when I was in a 30-man node war, 30 to 40-man node war, and it's not rare that you're freezing for like 5 to 10 seconds every so often. I don't think it should be happening. I think rendering is a major problem as well. Desync is at an all-time high on console. I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff that needs to be changed. I think the first most important thing with PC and console, the biggest difference that many people will see is, besides the FPS, is actual optimization. And I think if we had that optimization that PC did have, other than that, I think the difference is we don't have any of the accuracy accessories as well. So I think the content that we're receiving is very, very limited compared to what you guys have. Certain classes are excelling better than other classes. And it's kind of at the point where the average person in a top guild right now is walking around with at least, if you're in an AP build, you're at least walking around with 290, 293 plus AP. And we're capped at C5 armor. So I know on PC when they released Caphras, they just released them with no limit, and it caused a mayhem in the central market to receiving Caphras. But they did limit them for us. But can you imagine how much damage people are doing with everyone being capped at C5 armor, walking around with like 290 plus AP? Everything is just one-shotting you standing up. Certain classes are literally just floating or knocking down, throwing one skill, and you're dead. Everything is capped, including heave.
Including heave, okay. To C5, everything.
Everything is C5. Weapons, armor.
You did mention to me that you have Blackstar though.
We have Pen Blackstar, and for me, it doesn't make sense why our Caphras are limited to C5, and we have Pen Blackstar in the game, so it just makes it so that the people who are wailing on the game have that much more of an advantage.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about pay to win. You play in the NA server. I guess it's the same as our version, right? You have EU and NA.
Correct.
Assuming. Okay.
Yes.
How is NA in terms of pay to win?
If I had to say, if you're taking the average player, if you're taking the average ratio between PC and console, I think console has PC beat in regards to whales. I think there's a solid amount of people that whale, and the people that whale, it's just very, very obvious. And there's a lot of people. There's already Pen Ogres, Pen Tongrad Necks sitting on the CM at min. Pen Black Stars, the people that, if they go up, they sell within seconds. People are doing the selling costume weekly amount on the central market. They're doing it that way. And then there's people that are sitting there enhancing Tet, Pen, Black Stars with crons like it's nothing over and over. So yes, we do have a lot of whales.
Right. This might be maybe kind of an ignorant take, but I've always assumed one of the main reasons to play video on console was that you didn't have a gaming PC. At the same time, I would assume someone who drops thousands on the game would have enough to get a gaming PC.
You know what's crazy to think about, actually? But I actually made my NA account last night, and I got power leveled. I'm like level 60 already, so I don't know, just depending on the direction of the game. We'll see how this goes. I think I made a lot of friends on console, and I came to that game with friends that I've played previous games with. I don't know, there's just something about console to me.
It's more about the community, you're saying.
Yeah, community is awesome. I don't know, it's just the controller feels comfortable to me. Like me, I'm so garbage with keyboard and mouse. It's not even funny. So that's also like another learning curve that I would have to dive into. By all means, like if I was looking at the game side by side, PC versus console, with what I know now, with how things are on console versus how they are on PC from what I have observed and all that stuff, I would 100%, just knowing the information that I know now, I think I would rethink just starting out on console. I hope they at some point introduce a thing where you can transfer your gear to console, and that would be massive. I think that would be maybe the turning point if things weren't changed and implemented in the game to make the game better. If they're not going to provide us with not even content, because at this point content is not what we need. What we need is actual balance and optimization. And without those two, I don't care if Veil's Heart comes out. I don't care if Odalita comes out. But if I'm still freezing every 2 seconds, certain classes are just one-shotting me standing up because people are walking around with 300 plus AP and C5 armors. It's not a game that you want to play. You go into RBF, it's 30 sages, and you cast any skill, you're slowed, and you're dead. One shot standing up. BDO, if they want to be, known as a competitive MMO, combat game, they have to make it competitive. There's a lot of stuff that's in the game right now on console and both PC that isn't competitive.
You talked about cross-platform, console PC, which
yep,
we'll see right in the future. But currently, correct me if I'm wrong, but console already has cross-platform, right, between Xbox and PlayStation.
Yep, we have Xbox and PlayStation.
Okay. I would assume there's some kind of beef, maybe some rivalry between the two. What's the meta like? How's the environment?
So the guilds are cross-platform, so you can have both Xbox and PlayStation people in the same guild. And I remember when one of the craziest things was as soon as Xbox and PlayStation got the cross-platform because the game wasn't launched on console with cross-platform. This was, months, I would say over a year into the game, maybe. I could be wrong. Maybe over a year into the game where it was, just Xbox people, and then PlayStation cross-platform occurred. And a lot of the Xbox players did their research on who the top guilds in PlayStation were. A lot of PlayStation guilds did their research on who the top Xbox guilds were. And as soon as cross-platform went live, all the top guilds were decking each other, Xbox versus PlayStation. That's when we first got Kama Sylvia. Everybody was, camped out at Archer Guard Post, all the Xbox players, to kill all the PlayStation people walking into Kama Sylvia. That was pretty cool.
Is there a way to see if someone is from the other platform? Like, is there some kind of
Yes.
icon?
You know when you like put your weapons away and you walk up to someone and you can interact with them, like to party invite
Hmm.
information. If you go like on information, it'll show either the PlayStation or Xbox logo. But believe it or not, if I'm not mistaken, every PS4 guild, like top PS4 guild died. Like every guild that's node warring, they're pretty much Xbox guilds. So Xbox is definitely the winning platform as far as, the competitive scene goes. But I would say every roster is having about at least 85% Xbox players.
Okay, okay. So you're saying PlayStation players are filthy casuals?
Yeah, I was never a big fan of PlayStation, but just taking on what I see, it's either they're not as active as Xbox players or they're just more on the casual side.
Again, kind of an ignorant question, but probably something people might want to know. Isn't there a way to just plug in a keyboard and mouse and play?
No. Um, if you plug in a keyboard and mouse, the only thing that you're able to use is the keyboard. I'm pretty sure like console has made it that all third-party devices or just even using a keyboard is it's just not going to work. The only way that it can work is if you have I think it's called a Zim, a Cronus Max, something like that. It's something that yeah, it's like a Zim. You like plug in a USB to your Xbox, and I'm not sure how it works. And you plug in the keyboard, it like connects the keyboard to the Zim, doesn't register to the console that you're using a keyboard and mouse, but it just has like some technology in it to make the Xbox think that you're using a controller when you're actually not.
Okay. And is that allowed? Like, can you actually
Mm,
do that or?
No chance. I know people that have gotten banned for it
Okay.
on console. I'm sure there's people out there still using it, but I
Okay.
100% know people got banned.
Talking about bans, are there like exploits and speed hacking? Like, is that an issue on console? Do you have that kind of stuff?
Speed hacking, no. What I have seen is people AFK grinding, and they use like a mod, like a keypad mod on like a what they call like a strike pack or a Cronus Max, and you're able to make your controller memorize and loop the same button sequences. I remember going into Ackman once, and there was a witch in the corner of Ackman up in the rocks, just spamming Voltaic, Thunderstorm, Horror Roll, Fissure Wave, Healing, and then back into that same sequence on repeat. So he was just AFK grinding in Ackman. But that's as far as exploits. I mean, I guess that's kind of exploiting. That's because that's not really
Hmm.
anybody actively playing. I know certain people rubber band their controller in grind spots as well, and rubber band their controller to AFK grind, either a potion piece, something like that,
You mean
or trash it
literally
overnight.
rubber band? Put
Yeah,
a
literally,
rubber band on it. Okay, okay.
yeah, literally rubber band like a
Hmm.
button down and either your right trigger, your bumper, something like that.
Okay. And does PA take action?
At first, believe it or not, not really, because I saw that Witch and Ackman doing that for months and months. I'm pretty sure he's still doing it now. The one thing that they really did bans on were the people that were caught AFK grinding, rubber banding their controller down, which doesn't make sense. Just because a person is repeating the same button sequence, they maybe view it as an active player. But the person that's just sitting there throwing basic attacks or spamming only one skill, it's just obvious that it's rubber banded. I know a lot of people that have gotten banned for that.
Okay. Is account sharing something that happens on console?
Oh yeah, I know people that do it. I know a lot of people that pay people to grind. A lot of people.
You would say it's common?
I wouldn't say it's rare. I wouldn't
Okay.
say it's, you know, common either, because there's a lot of people that are doing it, but it's just all depending on who to find out that information. It's not really publicized.
Yeah, they're not open
More,
about it, so
yeah, it's more so
okay.
kept within either their guild or their inner core
Hmm.
friend group.
What, in your opinion, are the best PvE classes on console and the worst? Or if you have like a general idea of what the consensus is of the community?
Okay. Before I give those classes, I want everybody to keep in mind that the end game grind spot right now for console is either Sakraya or Star's End. So this could be very different from PC. So I'm not talking about, you know, Bloody Monastery or Orcs. We don't have any of that. So the our end game is strictly Sakraya and Star's End. And based off of that, I would say the best PvE classes right now, I think Sage in general is definitely number one. Awakened Striker, believe it or not, Succession Striker on console, I don't know what it is, if it's button delays between like ring menus and all that, but Succession Striker is not that good on console for PvE. For that third spot, I would either put Guardian or Sork.
And what are the worst?
Two classes that come to my mind is number one, the worst, if I had to just throw out one instantly, is Tamer.
Okay.
Following would be Kuno, and three I would say Ranger.
About PvP, like what are the best classes and what are the worst classes?
Overall, are you taking a specific 1v1 large
Let's
scale
let's go
approach?
let's go with overall.
Overall, okay. Number one, uncontested Awakening Sage right now. It's not even close. I would say number two is probably Awakened Nova. I think that class is beyond busted. Awakened Nova for sure. And then number three, I would say, at the current state of the game, I would probably say either for that third spot, I would have to give it to either Sork or Succession Wizard.
Okay. And how about the worst PvP classes in the game?
Tamer, because you can't forward WW efficiently. You can, but it's requiring you to press the input twice on your analog stick and left trigger, as opposed to hitting it once. So just imagine, if you're using your hotbar on a keyboard, if you had to press, one to cast a skill, you would have to press one twice. So you can see how that can be not efficient. Let's see, Tamer, Kuno, and Meiwa. Tamer, Kuno, Meiwa, for sure.
What's broken about the top three and what's bad about the bottom three?
Awakened Sage is, one-shotting you standing up. It has slows, a lot of protected movement, and there's not, at the current state of the game, with it also having a range grab, it's not fair. I think the main difference between the top and the bottom end of the classes, I don't know, it's just you can see the top end of the classes, they're very AoE based, and the bottom end of those classes, they're not really AoE based. They're more so single target. For example, like Meiwa, Red Moon is a really strong skill, but it doesn't have AoE punching power that Awakened Sage has or Succession Wizard has. Same thing goes for Kuno. It doesn't have, doesn't have as strong as a kit as Succession Wizard. It doesn't have the slows that Succession Wizards has. It doesn't have the heals. It doesn't have the protected area. You look at range, for example. Meteor is a ridiculous skill. Sage is pretty much a Succession Wizard, AoE wise, and it also has a grab. So there's a lot of things that those top end classes have that the bottom tier classes don't have. I think Tamer is just way too squishy on console. Let's just imagine how squishy a Tamer is with C5 armor. And
Hmm.
Kuno, I don't know, it's just something about Kuno that just does not excel on console. And there's only like one person that I would say that made Kuno look good, and Ninja is just significantly better than Kuno. And then you take Meiwa, it's two single target based in a game that where AoEs are winning, utility as far as slows and range is right now winning, and that's something Meiwa does not have.
Okay.
So the top end versus the bottom end is definitely you had to look on paper, it's just not balanced at all.
You mentioned earlier you have your endgame grind spots are Sikraya and Starzan, right?
Correct.
What's at what point of the game is console? Like, what was your last update for the game?
Our last update was the Cryo, and we got that, I want to say, maybe a month, maybe 2 months max.
Ago?
That was, yep. And then, but we got Star's End prior to that, so we've been on Star's End for a while. So we got Cryo quite recently. I'd say
Okay.
about 2 months ago at the max.
Okay, that's a bit weird.
Yep.
And what's the last region?
I think the last region we got was Magoria.
Okay, so you don't have Drigan and Odraksha.
We
Or you
have
do have
Dragon.
Drigan. Okay.
Yeah, we have Dragon.
So you also have the infinite potions.
Yes.
Do you have Garmot as a
Yes.
boss? But it's
No, no, no. It's a guild. It's a once a week guild mission that everybody has to complete in the guild 5 boss subjugation quests for you to be able to spawn Garmoth.
okay.
And Garmoth can only be summoned once a week, and it's reset every Sunday at a specific time.
Okay. Is it the same for other war bosses? Or is it just Garmot?
Uh, no, just Garmoth. Garmoth is guild boss. Kudum, Zarka, Nuver, all those world bosses and field bosses, they spawn on specific timers for world bosses. Field bosses
Okay.
are just random on server.
And how about Vel?
We don't have that.
You don't have Vel, so you don't have the Alchemist then.
Nope. The best
Okay.
stone in the game is the Resplended Destruction Stone.
Right. Do people have that? Do some people have
Yeah.
the Resplendent?
Some people have it. Yeah, some people have it. I just still use the one from trees, to be honest.
Okay. What are people running? Can you like visualize what
Yeah.
people are running in the slots? What's the preferred accessory and weapon and armor?
So I'll start with the armor since it's very, very easy and I can simplify it instantly. If you're not a striker or a mystic or a succession ninja, you're in full DR gear. I know only strikers are in Libers, Muskins, and Heave, and Dim. Everybody else, for the most part, is in Urgon's Bags, Griffin, and Dimtree. And as far as accessories go, everybody right now either having a Tungrad neck, Ogre, or Leighton. Rings is the most common ones right now are Crescents and Eye of the Ruins rings. Some people have the Tungrad rings, but definitely not as common. Belts, I would have to say, is Bassi is the most common, and then you have the super geared players or somebody that just has the Tungrad belt to have it. And then I would say best in slot right now for the earrings are everybody's walking around with distortions. If they're not as geared, they're on the Tungrad earrings. And then if they're super geared as well, you could also see Tet or Pen Narcs as well.
Okay, what about the weapons?
Weapons, it's either everybody, all like the geared Node War guilds. They're walking around with everybody for the most part is PvPing with Nuva right now. Everybody. I would say like a good 90 to 95%, actually even higher, 95% plus are PvPing with Nuva right now. Unless you're a striker or a mystic, they're using Kudum. Main hand, everybody's using either Pen Zarka or Pen Blackstar. Zarka Kafrod at C5. And then everybody has Pen Dandy. There's nothing else that's better at C5.
So no one uses Offin on console?
No, I think there's only the memes used often.
Okay. I guess there's no need for accuracy accessories. I mean, you only have RC, I would assume.
We only have yep,
And I mean,
RCE and
Tree
Tree
Spirit
Spirit.
Bell, yeah, which
Yep.
I'm sure you don't need them against C5.
No, you don't need them unless the striker's walking around in Rosar, the Manos Ruby earrings, Thistles, Centaurs type build.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need it for the most part. That's just only for Stork. I can only speak for it from Stork.
Yeah,
But
okay.
for the majority of the player base, you do not need accuracy accessories right now.
Mm-hmm. What about the crystals?
Depending on what guild you're asking, me personally, I'm very against the whole adamantines meta. I think that crystal needs to instantly be, changed to provide balance for the game. I don't believe in CC system being based around RNG, but there is a large player base in top node war and siege guilds that run Ooms with adamantines. So they'll run adamantines in their boots, Ooms in their chest and their helmet, or certain classes that are able to do damage without having corrupteds or crit hits in their offhand. So they'll put Ooms in their helmet and their offhand. And then everybody has Jins in their gloves. Main hand, everybody's going to be looking at Elcars, and sub weapons, like I mentioned, is all critical hit or corrupteds.
Okay, do you have RBF crystals?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm full human damage, so
Okay.
I do the full human damage build except for gloves. I'm running Jins.
What would you say is the average gear in top guilds nowadays on
In
console?
top guilds, you're looking at least 620, 630 plus. 620, 630 plus. Just because we've had this C5 Caphra limit for so long now. It's been months since Caphras have been released, and people have been full C5 for a while. I would say 620, 630 is easily the safe answer I could give you. The total player base of the game, like the average player, that's getting into Node Wars, is at least around the 580 to 600 mark now. Node War guilds. But the top end is at the 620 to 630 plus.
Let's move topic a little bit. I'm wondering, how do console players see PC players and the PC version of the game?
I think a lot of console players look at PC as a more so of a figurehead for the game, and kind of the direction that they want the game moving towards and becoming like. Because as we've discussed, you and I privately, it's the state of the game between console and PC is very different. So there is a lot of people that in the console player base that are actively in PC people streams, asking questions or complaining about how console is, what they wish console had. Yeah, I think a lot of people view PC as that kingpin of the game that we hope to be.
And is the economy of the game also based off of events, like the supply of accessories and other
Y-
materials?
yes, I'm glad that you brought that up because um there our market is very 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 influenced. And what I mean by influenced by what's going on, it's if an event comes out, for like a hards and sharps event, market crashes almost instantaneously. If there's a event drop rate, item drop rate, accessories crash, everything crashes on the market for the most part. If there's a boss gear or night vendor, half energy off, boss gear crashes. But even regardless of our events, our market is so volatile, it's not even funny. Like right now, for the past months, distortion earrings are 100, anywhere between 170 to 200 mil on console. And it just doesn't make sense why prices on console are significantly lower for drops, and they expect us to, the people that are buying their gear, it's definitely much harder to make money on console than it is on PC just due to how bad the market is if you're going the buying route. But if you're the type of person that enhances, it could benefit you as well. So it's kind of like a just depending on, your style of gear progression, whether it's more beneficial or less beneficial to you. But I think our market is absolutely horrible. Our Laytons and tongue rednecks and ogres are anywhere between 45 mil to 60 mil.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, grind spots are also different on console because they removed mobs for optimization, but they increased the respawn rate.
Yes,
Correct?
but that got reverted
Oh, okay.
actually. That
Okay,
got
so it's
so
the same as we have.
yeah, so yep, it's the same as you guys have right now. I remember at the time, I think I mentioned that to you in the past, is they removed 40% of our mobs because the game was running very, very bad, and they thought that removing the mobs would more so lead to improved PvP optimization. And for the time being, it worked. As the game progressed, I don't know what happened with the new console, but they refused to do any recent game optimization changes, and they gave us the mobs back, and I don't know if it's because the mobs being back, the game optimization isn't there, or if it's because we haven't had an optimization in over a year. So it's hard to say.
And can you give me like maybe some either some fun facts or like any story about the history of video on console? Is there any major event that happened? Anything like that that comes to mind?
A major event for me personally, outside of that, Xbox versus PlayStation story where all of Xbox players threw up the decks on PlayStation and waited outside of the Commissylvia entrance area and had a big open world GVG fight upon cross-platform launch. That was a cool, memorable moment. And my personal favorite moment was what myself and one other of my friends used to do in Istria, and it was just me and him pretty much versus the number one guild in the game at the time. And pretty much we would just be climbing the rocks in Histria, server swapping, because we didn't have the server swap cooldown either. So you could server swap infinitely. And then that was something that the server swap respawn time or the server swap timer was something that was added later into the game, but the max that you're getting it is between 30 and 40 seconds. Pretty much, what him and I would do would just be server swapping, looking for any deck, killing them, continue to kill them as much as they were tiering until the Zerg showed up, and it would either be a start escape server swap or either V server swap in V. We wouldn't give them the satisfaction of letting them kill us in the Zerg. So the people that were actively grinding were getting very, very frustrated with what we were doing. So it was definitely a fun time. And that was like before we had the new console on Xbox. There was a point where in history, I don't know if you remember old main rotation going into side, but there's these rocks in inside room where you can climb up to the top, like very, very high, but you need like jump gear, elixirs, all that stuff to get to the top. And every time we would server swap to a certain server, you would see the whole guild server swapping into that server, trying to climb up to where we were. And as they were climbing up, they were either dying, or if it was too many climbing up at once, we were server swapping as soon as they got to the top, going to a different spot in Histria, climbing up top, either ganking someone in that rotation while you're in a server swap screen, covering it so people can't see what server you're on, ganking the person in their rotation, and then the Zerg would show up again, and by the time they got there, it was too late. So it was very, very hit and run, but it definitely made a lot of people frustrated at the time. And I think as far as PvP goes, that alone, if you had to ask any console player, what the most active PvP times were, they would give you that moment. I think every person that was taking a break from the game, or every person that was, not playing the game as actively, that was the reason to get on because of how fun it was and, how much, I guess, stream publicity that it did get. We were what we call on console griefing the top guild. All the other guilds that were decked against them, they would all be in the streams donating money for tiers, so in case you did die. They were just more so it was a series of events that was very, very supported by all guilds. It was definitely a fun time.
How do you see the player base of console? Is it going up? Is it going down? How's the future of the game looking from your point of view of
I'm
console?
gonna ha- I'm gonna have to be honest with you. Ever since Succession Sage came out, or since Sage released, I know so many people that quit the game. That to me is raising a lot of red flags. Just a class release, PA releasing a class like that without, more so beta testing it to make sure that it is balanced before releasing it. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes they made. That's where I do think console becomes very in handy to the PC community because maybe the PC community does not, see Sage doing as much damage that it does because of the gear differences that you guys have. So, a lot of you guys are in C9, full C9 armor plus, and, a Sage doing damage to a full C9 plus is way different than a person that the average player base is, still in Tet DR or has a couple pens and our cap is C5. You can only imagine how much damage Succession Sage was doing at the time. So I know a lot of people did take a long break from the game until either Sage was fixed and they fixed it completely. They fixed Succession, so I don't think Succession Sage is as busted as it was. And then they made Awakening even more broken, in my opinion, outside of large scale. I think Succession was only better in large scale, maybe, but certain people would argue that. But I think that alone made the player base shrink quite a bit. I know a lot of people quit because of the Succession Wizard meta. Once that got nerfed, they came out with something that was even more broken than Succession Wizard. Those two things were the reason why I would say the player base has dropped. However, I do think the player base now, since seasons, we just got seasons on console, it's maybe, refreshing and more encouraging for people to come back or have a little bit more fun from what the standard of the game was at the time. So I would say right now we're, ever since Sage came out, maybe in the negative, but this past week or two, I would say, we're more so neutral, potentially heading on the incline. It just depends. Just depends on what's going on. If PvP is super active, everybody's on. If there's no, open world GVGs going on, you'll see people fade away.
How does console see Perlavis? Like, how much do you think the community is being heard, and like how much interaction is there between the player base of console and the Perlavis?
I think the players, they don't have, the physical players, they can submit all the tickets they want. I don't think that the players are heard enough. I think once I was offered to be in the partner program with BDO, one of the main things I wanted to make sure was voice my opinion, but in return, the value that I was bringing was being heard. And that's kind of the main reason why I wanted to be a part of the partner program, was to make the game that I'm playing better, not just for the content creator title. For me, it's very, very different. If I want to have fun on the game that I'm playing, and if I'm not having fun, or if the game isn't balanced, I want to make sure that whoever it concerns, they know that the game needs to be better. There needs to be fixes to make the game better.
How do you see the future of Black Desert in general and on console as well?
How do I see the future? I do think a lot of things need to be reworked. I think I'm gonna make it very generalized because I don't want to make it. Perlibus is never gonna release a patch just for console, so I've accepted that months and almost years ago that we'll never get a separate patch from PC. So to generalize it between both platforms, I think the first thing they need to touch on is the RNG in PvP. I'm fine with the RNG with enhancing all that stuff, but RNG should not be in a PvP competitive type combat game. So I think the biggest thing they can, the future, if they're looking to make the game better for the game, for the players, resistance needs to be something that they heavily look in. Slows needs to be something that they heavily look in. They need to give some love to the classes that don't see actively playing. They need to look into the specific reasons why aren't people playing certain classes, and why is, a very, very high percentage of people playing one specific class. And I think if they looked at the numbers more closely, and instead of, procrastinating on making change, I think action needs to be taken at a way quicker rate than what it is, because there's a lot of games that are out there aside from Black Desert that people easily can go to and have fun. So if they're not listening to the community and their active player base and their competitive player base of people that truly understand mechanics of the game, how every class works, including, others. If they're not listening, you're going to see a lot of people, especially competitive people, steer in a different direction from Black Desert. Pearl Abyss definitely has the capability to make the future of the game excel way more than it currently is. And I hope they proceed to do so, because I know I'm not the first person that complained about resistance crystals or nerfing Awaken Nova, nerfing Awaken Sage. At what point in their heads does it come to the point where they're like, okay, we need to roll out a patch to fix this? I just don't understand what is taking so long to get those points across, to bring change to a game that everybody wants, when there's a lot of people in the game that don't want these things. It's just depending on, I think before new content delivers, I think the main thing they need to worry about is balance. Balance will win over content. If the game is physically fun to play, it will always win over new content. New content is temporary, actual balance is indefinite. It's forever.
I think you can wrap it up here. Is there any shout out you want to make?
Yeah, I mean, I want to give a shout out to you for having me on this call. I know it means a lot, and it's crazy how we got connected from both platforms, but I'm super grateful, super thankful that you asked me to be here today. At the end of the day, looking at from your streams, you want the same changes, a lot of the changes that I want for the game, and that's for better play of everybody. And I have a lot of respect for people that want change for something that you're individually playing yourself, but not change that directly applies to yourself, but applies to everybody else. And there's a lot of people out there that usually want what's best for themselves, but I can tell with the content that you deliver, you're doing a good job, and you truly want what's best for the state of the game. And a shout out to Perlibis. I hope maybe you guys watch this interview and give us some feedback on it, because the game can easily be steered into a better direction.
All right. Well, thanks for coming. It was a pleasure. I hope you had fun. And
I appreciate it.
We played the same game. At the end, it should be the same. I think we should be considered the same community.
Yep, I agree completely. It was awesome to be here, and thank you once again.
Okay. Have a good day. See you next time. And that was the interview. I hope you enjoyed it. And I haven't posted a video in forever, and I truly apologize for it. I'll be more consistent with my upload schedule from now on. Because of that, the YouTube algorithm is probably gonna fuck this video up, so it would mean the world to me if you help me out by sharing it, smashing the like button, and leaving a comment, letting me know that you actually got to the end of the video. You're likely one of the few. If you want to support my content, you can use code HIDDEN for 83% discount on Surfshark, one of the best and most trusted VPNs out there. If not, that's cool. Links to my socials on screen. I post a lot of cats pictures on Instagram, so maybe check that out. See you on stream or on my next video. But until then, kisses.